Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to Downtime. My name is Nick Suter. I'd like to thank you all for coming to this Christmas show. I gotta tell you, it can be a little tough doing these, and I think there's a lot of people who kind of concur for any number of reasons. But for us in particular, it's a news show, and like everybody else on YouTube, we want subs, and the best way to get subs is, oh my God, the world's coming to an end, and that works. It works beautifully. You all have seen channels do it. Most of you, including myself, are subscribed to at least some channels who do it, and those of you who know what we do, we really try to avoid that. We're an educational program, and education is not dramatic, at least not usually. So we end up in this situation where we're looking at, the Donald Trump has been elected for a lot of us. That has dire consequences for the United States. All of us know somebody who's suffering, maybe who died of cancer recently. People who've lost their parents, lost their spouses, God forbid, lost their children. We are very interested in the war in Ukraine. We've also been covering what's been going on in Israel, and it's very tough. And so you sit there and say, what are we going to do for Christmas? Well, I'll say too, the number of family members that I know that are fighting, friends that are fighting, not talking to each other, and it's always this way on some level. So Christmas comes along. I'm an atheist. I'm not celebrating it for the religious reasons, so I can make it whatever I want to make it. And what I've decided I want to make it about is an affirmation of the best in all of us. You, me, our fellow apes. So what is the best, especially with so much going on around us? Well, I'd like to show you all something here, and I'm going to see if I can maneuver this around so that we can all see just how bad things not the early 1900s, over the last 100 years, the global poverty rate has dropped from a whopping 80% of the population to less than 20% of the population. Yes, it's true. One child starves to death every 7 seconds in Africa. There's work to be done. But an 80% drop in the world poverty rate. Now, that is as a percentage of people alive. We have more people alive and fewer percentage of them starving to death. Well, it is a violent place. What about murders? This is the homicide rate for the last, actually I think this is 200 years, lower than at just about any time in human history. And if you look at the percentage of the population dying from wars, you'll find it's also lower than at just about any time in human history. What about life expectancy? This is a chart of life expectancy from the 1770s to 2018. That is the average life expectancy. For some countries, it's taken longer. Some countries are still almost flatlining on that. But overall, we've gone from an average life expectancy of 32 for the last 100,000 years to average life expectancy for human beings over 60. Yeah. Our greatest ability is to adapt, but that means that when we're living in pretty good times, we still find a way to find something to make us miserable about it. Well, that's our choice. That's our choice. So I'm choosing to make Christmas about remembering what we all have in common, that would like to see those numbers still go up. And there are some truly shitty people around us, but there's fewer than there's ever been. And our friends and family are happier and live longer than they ever have, as have we. I think that's something to celebrate. So before we continue, I'd like to read one of my favorite quotes. It's from John F. Kennedy. I've often misquoted it as his inaugural address. He gave it shortly before his inauguration. It was at his commencement speech for, I want to say Penn State. I don't remember. So let us not be blind to our differences, but let us also direct our attention to common interests and to the means by which those differences can be resolved. And if we cannot now end our differences, at least we can make the world safe for diversity. For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures. And we are all mortal. There are only so many Christmases you're going to get on this planet. Let's have a good one. And thank you for spending yours with us.
Patriotism. There's a word thrown around a lot. It inspires passionate debate and is worn like a badge of honor, and with good reason. Because it means love and devotion for one's country. Love. For a word designed to unite, it can also be pretty divisive. You see, there's more to patriotism than flag seeking with onesies and rodeos and quadruple cheeseburgers. Patriotism is love for a country, not just pride in it. But what really makes up this country of ours? What is it we love? It's more than just a huge rock full of animals like cougars and eagles, right? It's the people. Do me a favor. Close your eyes for a second. I want to try something out. Picture the average U.S. citizen. Think about it. How old are they? What's their hair like? How much can they bench? You got one? Okay. So chances are, the person you're picturing right now looks a little different to the real average American. There are 319 million U.S. citizens. 51% are female. So first off, the average American is a woman. Cool, huh? Is that what you pictured? 54 million are Latino, 40 million senior citizens, 27 million are disabled, 18 million are Asian. That's more people in the U.S. than play football and baseball combined. 9 million are lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, more than the entire amount of people that live in the state of Virginia. Around 10 million are redhead, 5.1 million play ultimate frisbee, and 3.5 million are Muslim. Triple the number of people currently serving in the United States military. Almost half the country belongs to minority groups. People who are lesbian, African American, and bi, and transgender, and Native American, and proud of it. We know that labels don't devalue us, they help define us, keeping us dialed into our cultures and our beliefs and who we are as Americans. After all, what's more American than freedom to celebrate the things that make us, us? I mean, it's stitched into the stars and stripes of this country. From the Constitution to Gettysburg, to our motto, E pluribus unum, from many, one. It's even in our country's name, the United States. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, disability, sexuality, race, religion, and any other labels. Because the second any of us judge people based on those labels, we're not really being patriotic, are we? So let's try this one more time. Close your eyes. Picture the average Joe or Joan or Juan or Jean-Luc. The real people who make America, America. And this year, whenever you feel the urge to don those star-spangled shorts, set off fireworks the size of my biceps to show love for our country, remember that to love America is to love all Americans. Because love has no labels.
In Sweden, the city of Gävle, yes, Gävle.
I think hold on, you may be hearing the presentation thing now, and I'm going to pause that if I can. Let's just boom, yeah. There we go. All right, we'll get to that in a second. Thank you all. Merry Christmas. Thank you all for joining us, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to those of you who do not celebrate Christmas. There's a lot of holidays around now, and if you don't celebrate any of them, thank you anyway for joining us. With me today is 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐜𝐜𝐿. 𝐒𝐿𝐜𝐜𝐿, how you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. It's beautiful Southern California weather. Not too hot, not too cold.
I'm in my in-time $400 suit, not my $400 suede thing. I should switch to that. I don't know. I wanted to do formal. I'll switch $400 suits in a minute. Well, good. I'm glad you're doing well. Yeah, it got to like 8 degrees Fahrenheit over here yesterday. That was a lot of fun. Trying to figure out how to keep the heating bill low without like letting everything freeze. So let's see what I'd like to do. Actually, let me. We're going to do something here. It's probably going to get us demonetized. We're not even monetized. So, for those of you who don't know, this is the Downtime channel. Downtime from In Time is now going to be on this channel. There's a lot of reasons for that. I won't get into it. But it was previously monetized. We fell below 1,000 subs. We are no longer monetized. So please do hit the like and subscribe. Helps us monetize. The watch hours is also we're very far behind on. But I hope to get that caught up soon. It does give us the advantage of we can show content that's not necessarily our own and let you in on that little guy right there, because all of you can see on the screen there is a goat on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Downtime, after dark, we're going to be monitoring that goat. We are very concerned for his safety. His odds are not great, I have to admit, and so let us talk about the goat and his many problems. We are going to play a video here. This video is not our content, and there is a link to the original. We hope that you will go grab that link and share it with other people, because we think this is worth it, and then you will understand the goat. So let's get into that.
Gävle, yes, Gävle, erects a giant goat statue out of wood and straw for Christmas time, and every year the townspeople do everything in their power to burn it down. No, it's not legal. The city tries really, really hard to keep this from happening, and has turned every Christmas season into a month-long game of attack and defend for nearly 60 years. And oh boy do they attack! So far, out of the 59 goats ever built, only 18 have managed to survive the whole month. One had a car driven into it, one was burnt down 6 hours after it was built, one year they doused it in fireproof material and it got burned down, one had a bunch of seeds trapped in the straw so it was literally eaten by birds, one was stolen by a random guy and put in his backyard, and there was another attempt to illegally carry it to Stockholm via helicopter that failed because life was becoming too fun. In spite of fences and security cameras and fireproofing and apparently the military, the city has failed to suppress the indomitable human spirit that just so happens to be unfortunately weaponized into committing arson. As of right now, the GOAT for 2024 is up, with a 24-hour live stream on the Gävle tourism site, of course to deter arsonism, slowly waiting for its fate.
All right, so that is the GOAT live stream, the 24/7 GOAT live stream. We are, I hope you understand, 18 out of 59 years is not great odds. We are concerned for the GOAT. The GOAT is, please keep the GOAT in your thoughts and prayers. No, Michelle, no, you misunderstood the point. We're trying to keep the goat alive. This In Time is pro-goat. At least I am. 𝐒𝐿𝐜𝐜𝐿, are you, what's your over-under on the goat making it?
Well, I mean, we only have like, 6 days left of the year, so it's hanging in there.
Yeah, so anyways, there you go. That is the GOAT live stream. If anything dramatic or tragic should happen to the goat, I really do kind of hope it's not like we're going to have a guest on, it'll be somebody like from a war zone or something like that, and they're like, oh yeah, we're fighting and we're this and that, and then all of a sudden the goat just goes up in fire. It would be a little distracting. That's why it's only on Town Time. That's why In Time is not going to be showing the goat stream, because if something goes wrong at just like the wrong time with the wrong interview, it's like, we have on General Hodges and he's telling us about NATO, and all of a sudden the goat just goes up. It's a bad look.
Yeah, and should they succeed in destroying the goat on live camera here, those who happen to be in the live stream while we watch it go down in flames, we'll do a giveaway.
We'll do a what?
We'll do a giveaway.
Okay. What are we giving away?
I'll figure that out later.
Oh, hey, okay. Listen, sorry. I thought this was going to be more work for me. As long as I don't have to worry. Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, so 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴ndring's planning a giveaway. If you are in the live chat while the goat meets an unfortunate end, and join us on the Discord, and we'll also have, like, maybe, I think we should do, like, so there's, here's the deal. Here's the giveaway. Either you vote that the goat makes it. If you vote it doesn't, you have to predict the cause of death for the goat. Fire, vehicular manslaughter, vehicular goat slaughter, I guess. Torpedo.
Hitchcock birds.
Yeah, I love the birds. I guess this year you cannot, because of recent events, you probably can't. I mean, if you guess intercontinental ballistic missile and you happen to be right, I don't know what you get. Like, we may just have to turn over the whole channel to you. It's like, okay, that's it. Putin's threatened to fire another one off.
Except that's like a foreseeable thing. Like, okay, we have this kind of threat going on. Who in the hell would ever have come up with random guy with a helicopter tries to fly away with it?
Yeah.
Come on. That's or there were too many seeds in it and the birds pecked it to death. Like, those are things that are like, where the hell did that come from? I realize that, like, intercontinental ballistic missile is probably pretty low on the list of probabilities, but you could foresee that. Like, if that happened, you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, that's not surprising. Somebody driving into it their car, I guess, okay, yeah. A little bit harder to believe that somebody would, damage their car that way. But come on, really? Random guy in a helicopter tries to fly away with it, or the birds? Those are completely out of left field, and so anything's the limit here. Somebody drives a old tank through it and decides to blow it up, nothing is off the table at this point.
Okay, so here's the deal, just to make it fair for everybody, which is you have to bet either that the goat makes it or that it doesn't, and bonus raffle if you guess the manner of death. But we'll just, so that, like, that's like an extra, you get something extra if you happen to be right about it, but you don't have to get, it's just a over under, does the goat make it, Discord, and then amongst all the winners 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴ndring will come by your house and do your voice, I like that. 𝐍𝐤𝐜𝐴ndring will do your voice message for your phone voicemail. We'll come up with something better than that.
I was going to say, that sounds pretty terrible.
That does. That actually kind of sounds a bit more like a threat.
I'm just going to swing by your house and find something random to give away.
It's my... You don't know where I live, I don't think. Because I've moved. I'm hoping you don't know. Okay. I'm gonna go make sure that the records on In Time are not public, because we're not having that. We'll figure out something. So, does the goat make it or not? I feel like Eddie Murphy on Saturday Night Live. Here's the thing: the town pays for the goat. They pay to build it. The town pays for the security. Then the town goes and tries to wipe the goat out and or just carry it off with a helicopter. Oh my God. And something I was talking earlier about the human spirit. I don't know why. For me, this encapsulates the human spirit, just the duality of the, okay, we're going to make a goat. Now let's try to murder the thing.
I think my guess, I'm going to go with it doesn't make it, and it's going to be death by don't look up.
Oh, you think he's going to get hit by an asteroid?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the odds of ICBM are higher than you think, because Putin said he's going to launch another one, and he's pissed at Sweden because NATO.
I think if he were going to launch ICBM, Finland would be more likely to be a target than Sweden. So
yeah, but he's the antithesis of hate, and he wants this goat dead. This goat brings too many people too much joy. He has to have it in for the goat. I have to believe that.
Yeah, but the death of the goat is what seems to be bringing people joy, because so many people try and take it down, and they've been so successful over the years. Why would he participate in bringing the people to joy? I would more expect him to put like an air defense battery around it to make sure that drones or something don't fly into it and catch it on fire.
They're going to have an air defense battery. He's going to put 10,000 North Korean troops all around the goat, and
that would be a bad idea, because then they would just flee into the city going, "Save me!"
Well, and they'd all be watching porn all day.
Yeah. That wouldn't go over well.
I can't believe, I think Pornhub now can actually be considered it's been weaponized. It is now a tool of propaganda for war, because as soon as apparently the North Koreans figured out that such a thing exists as Pornhub, it's like they won't fight anymore. They're too busy. It's like, and all the computers are getting used, and the keys are all sticking together. And it's like, maybe bringing the North Koreans here was not a good idea. Just saying.
A lot of repression.
Yeah. I can't believe that's a thing too that we have to talk about, that basically North Koreans, once they discovered the internet, they're like, screw fighting. It's just, oh.
I think the operative word there is screw.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, well, no, I was going to get serious there for a minute. That's the thing, right? The more open the communities, the more we share information instead of fighting, the more we accomplish as a species. That was the whole point of everything that I was showing at the beginning. And North Korea is this dark, it's like you can see North Korea from space, not because of where the light is, but because of where it isn't. There's light all around North Korea, and you can see the perfect shape of North Korea.
It's like Pyongyang's like the only city that actually has lights at night. It's like there's a few other places that have electricity, but they shut it off at night. You had this beautiful, wonderful opening where it's like, can we take a moment and see where the human race has come from? Because we get a lot of kind of doomer porn coming in, a lot of first world problems that we hyperfixate on, because we have to fixate on some. I believe that our bodies and our brains are wired to find problems to avoid for survival. And so as you take the major problems of like living day to day, getting enough food, not getting eaten by the lion, etc., when you solve most of those problems, most of the really big ones, well, our brains don't stop worrying about things. So they just start worrying about less and less and less consequential and important things. Now, it's relative, because things that you would worry about, say, in the middle of Africa, rural Africa, are going to be quite a bit different than the things you worry about in rural Kansas. And to your life, your individual life, they're probably equally as important. But trying to judge them from a distance, it's like one seems a little bit more important than the other. So, your problems are yours, and you have to live with them every day. And so I do think that we we have to have those problems. Our brains are wired to look for them, and so we find them. And it's nice that they're becoming more and more and more, I hate to say petty, but more inconsequential.
Yeah.
So it was very uplifting to try and say, hey, let's take a step back and look at where human beings have been and look at where we are now. Obviously, there's another 20% to go for global poverty. There's still things we can work on, but you sounded so depressed when you were giving this very uplifting, positive news of, wait a minute, look at where we used to be, look at the progress we have made. And you seemed sad about that. I know it was supposed to be all serious and you were trying to have gravitas, but you seemed depressed about that.
And then the human life expectancy went up to 72, so that's another 58 years you're going to have to figure out how to get food and shelter and deal with the wife who's always nagging. I liked it when it was 32. I'm just saying.
Go out in the prime.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I'm going out waving my spear, screaming my head off at a big old woolly mammoth.
I'm going for the goat.
Go, man.
I'm going for the goat.
Go for the goat.
If I was told if I was told I had only one day to live, I was like, Sweden, here I come.
I don't know. Customs have gotten pretty bonkers in some places, so you'd probably end up flying into Sweden, spend your last 12 hours, because it'd take you 12 hours to get there, your last 12 hours in a dang interrogation chamber. Why are you here again?
Yeah, nothing. Why do you have this lighter? Because I smoke. Why do you have a picture of this goat here with you? It's with a big target painted on it. It's like, wow.
Why do you have all the directions to this?
Yeah. Well, I wonder sometimes too, because I like to try to think. We use a lot of words. Words in general are metaphors, but some are more obviously. They stand for something that's ethereal and you don't know quite what. Everybody has a vague idea what the word table is. Everybody just thought of a different thing, by the way. I said the word table, everybody just got an image in their mind of a different thing. Probably for most of the people, not everybody, but for most of the people in the audience, it probably had four legs, had a flat surface. I mean, there's going to be things, but they're actually metaphors or categories of things. The words obviously aren't the things themselves. But one thing that I find interesting is what about words like character? What does it mean to have character? And I think part of it is how finding that balance between the big and the small, between the important and not. Because the other thing I don't want to do is I don't want to go the other way and get people depressed about like, oh, all my problems are insignificant. No, they're significant if you don't treat them significantly. The reason we've been able to improve life is by taking problems seriously. And we have modern problems now, including, who gets elected, including who, gets to control vaccinations and other things that are a big part of why life expectancy has gone up. If human suffering wasn't at least partly relative, nobody gets to have a bad day after the Holocaust. I mean, nobody gets to have a bad day after the Holocaust, and that's not how we operate. We are all entitled to bad days. We're all entitled to have bad things happen to us. You don't have to be at the extreme end of the spectrum in order to have traumatic events and suffering. We are adaptable creatures, and we adapt to happiness too, which is a good thing. Again, that's why we're the dominant species. So character, at least to me in part, is finding that balance, not being the person. I mean, this is character. This is the bad character, but this is character. But I know people who just, it's just like. I got a hangnail, and when I tried to cut it, it started bleeding. Oh my God! And we all know those people. And it's like, okay, that's no, you shouldn't be there. But we also know the people who are, again, on the other end, like, problems that you can't solve or deal with right now. That, like, it's like, oh, we've got this, the war in Ukraine. How many people are dying in the war in Ukraine? And I think it's important to make it, for us, we make it part of our show and we contribute to helping the problem. But you can't get too caught up in it. There are people over there I am worried about. I also have to realize that, they're going to do what they do, and they're doing the best that they can, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And life is what is it? Oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for? When they say it's not a competitive sport, but it's a team sport. Life is a team activity. So it's and we all have different burdens, and so trying to understand how to navigate that is so unbelievably complex. And it is, what is it they say, youth is wasted on the young. You get older and you start to figure out how to, and you're like, why was I pissed off in high school when somebody said that, I was short? I am short. That's got nothing to do with fuck all, Why? But you don't figure that out until, I don't know. Any thoughts? Are you still connected? Did Yavlov? I think the residents of Yavlov may have gotten his Zandering. They knew about the goat. They knew about his threats against the goat, and it may be they've been avenged. Zandering, I think I heard you move there. You there?
Yeah, I had to relocate because the Swedish were coming for me.
Yep. Yeah, they're all coming. Don't mess with the goat. Well, and so far, right now, Michelle Michaels has said pro goat. I think in time, I'm hoping in time is going to be a pro goat team. I mean, it's the people in the live chat who are going to determine it. But I hope let's be pro goat. I want to be pro goat. I want the goat to make it. I mean, 18 to so this is I think their 60th year doing it. 60 years. They do not like that goat, man. they just don't. Oh. The Swedish Bureau of Investigation would like a word with you, Zandring.
You gotta catch me first. We are in Sweden.
Yeah. Even I have no idea where you are. Like at any given time. Well, you said earlier it was California, so you're soaking in the rays. But still, it's like that's where you are now. It's like where you are tomorrow. I got no idea. So tracking your ass down is a real pain in the ass.
Half the time, I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow either.
Oh dear Lord. So
I'm trying to remain all bright and optimistic, and it's hard because I want to rant about some things. And
what do you want to rant about?
We're all doomed. This country's going to collapse. We're going to have a sovereign debt crisis, and it's all because of people like John Kennedy. It's like, oh my God, I cannot get that dang thing out of.
Oh, sorry. Is entering your shield seems to have come down, and I think your audio got cut. I don't know what happened. His shield went down. Can we get someone? Tim, can you get on his Endering's shield? Tim? No, our producer. I can't get a hold of our producer. Well, this is a problem. I think I don't know. Is Andring? No. Nope. Oh, his shield came back up. So you were saying about the Christmas presents.
Oh, now you want to talk to me some more. I was getting ready to go in and have some Christmas dinner or something at, out of the hot case here, because that's about all they have.
Well, okay. So, in being honest, because I did ask you, because I wanted to know. So I mean, the debt crisis is a serious problem in the U.S. And so. And you and I have talked about it before. We've talked about it on In Time, obviously, and we really need to bring back an economist and have an In Time. And before we dive into it, I'm going to do one other thing for Ham. just because we were talking about this, and this was a great idea of having After Dark come back. After Dark is our show that really is about you guys. You guys can call in. It's an open hang, so if you have a camera and you want to join us in the hangout, you can. If you just want to call in, we have a number you call. It's like 1-800-4-IN-TIME. You can call in and chat with us and ask us whatever questions you want to ask us, ask 𝐒𝐶𝐬𝐿, ask the guests. We used to do it a lot also immediately after having a guest on, so if you want to talk to the guest. We'll make it available on the Discord too, so you can just come into the Discord and join us, but After Dark is not yet set up, so we're downtime. So that was Ham who had brought that up, UK and Ham. U&K.
You're not really selling. You're not really selling this After Dark thing. Ask 𝐒𝐶𝐬𝐿. Who wants to ask me a question? Like, really? That's so anticlimactic.
Well, Commander will be there too. So, and
that might be worth it.
People would rather You know what hurts though. This really hurts. It's not that people would rather ask Commander a question than me. That's not it. It's that they'd rather ask his dog a question than ask me. It's like his dog is more popular on our Discord. They're like, why aren't there more pictures of his dog? It's like, hello, I'm the host. What were you going to say?
I said, well, yeah, what hurts the most is being so close and having so much to say, but watching you walk away.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
So what is Johnson, not Johnson,
what's Kennedy doing?
Yeah,
oh, he's making really, really horribly bad ideas, and then just gushed at how he liked Phil Collins and Cher. And on the House or on the Senate floor, he does this in response to a very reasonable amendment. It happened, I think it was last Friday. So they were trying to do the budget package thing, and one of the things in there was about the national flood insurance, and so they were standing up, and Kennedy gives this little speech on it should be reauthorized, and then Rand Paul stands up and is like, wait a minute, here's a program that's $20 billion in debt right now. So it's got a shortfall. It's not collecting the premiums in order to cover the costs of actually, rebuilding things. It's like we have cases of houses that have been rebuilt up to 41 times. And so he goes on and talks about how this is really kind of a crappy system. It's needed to be bailed out once before, where they just decided to forgive the debt that the program was in. They just forgave it. So it's like that, all of the other taxpayers. I have to stop saying that now, because really it's taxpayers aren't really paying for this stuff anymore. It's being funded by debt. Yeah. So, and I think that's one of the moral hazards that we have in our government, is the fact that you can vote in a new program. People can see benefits from it, but people don't see an immediate rise in their own taxes because they've borrowed the money. Yeah. Now, eventually that's got to come from somewhere, but it doesn't have to come right now. So you can get a new program established and get everybody on and loving it. And now you can't take it away, because it makes people really angry, and you probably won't get reelected if you vote to take it away. Except that nobody has actually borne the cost of this. Yeah, so being able to run a deficit, especially in like peace times for general budgetary items, I think is a huge moral hazard for any kind of government. But just listening to the exchange between these two, where Rand Paul is trying to make very reasonable and reasoned arguments for why we should add a few amendments to this to just reduce the amount of debt. It's like his obvious preferred choice would have been to just eliminate the program and let the private sector figure this out. Yeah. And of course, the obvious response to that is, well, yeah, but then you're going to have people who won't be able to buy houses because they won't be able to gain flood insurance. And it's like, okay, let's think about that for just a moment. And it's hard because these are real people that could be struggling, and this may be the only thing they can afford. And now they can't get financing to buy this house because it's, the finance company is going to require it to be covered for flood insurance, and the flood insurance, private flood insurance companies won't cover it. Actuaries are amazing people. I cannot even fathom the mind of an actuary. The fact that they can put such numbers on risk is amazing to me. So when you have a privatized insurance company that says, "Hey, we won't cover any of this stuff because we will literally lose money for this," you go, maybe we shouldn't be building houses there. After, I don't know, maybe the 4th, 5th, maybe the 10th time a property has been, severely damaged by flood, maybe we should go, let's not rebuild that one and go ahead and let it stay a floodplain. And I wish it could be as easy as that, because nothing is ever as easy as everybody wants you to believe. So it gets really complicated because there's a lot of people that own property that they would be completely screwed if the government stopped offering flood insurance, because private companies wouldn't cover a lot of the places.
Oh yeah.
So you can't just get rid of it like you wanted to. And he recognized that, okay, you guys aren't going to vote to get rid of this, even though I think that we should. So can we at least add in a few amendments to this, like people's second homes, vacation homes, beach houses? If eventually the amendment got to the point where it's like, if it's over $1 million valued home, it's like, this is a wealthy person owning a secondary home. Could we possibly tell them that they need to go to the private sector and buy insurance and not get it through the government? It's like, why is the government subsidizing the first $250,000 of flood damage for wealthy Americans? And of course, Mr. Kennedy was just like, oh, I can't believe the assault on rich people here. It's like, I wait a minute. I thought you wanted rich people to, and these are two Republicans, by the way. One's Kennedy's from Louisiana, and Louisiana has a lot of homes that are insured for flood through the National Flood Insurance, because there's a lot of them in there. And of course, Rand Paul's from Kentucky, where flooding usually isn't all that bad. So, that just this back and forth between them, and the fact that Rand Paul actually seemed to be the quite reasonable one in this discussion, and Kennedy seemed a bit unhinged, like had no argument except to literally build up straw men to try and burn down, and it's just like, I don't even know, what are you arguing here? Because you aren't actually addressing any of the points that Rand Paul's making. So you've just dug in your heels and said, no, we have to pass it exactly as is, no changes whatsoever. And I'm like, this is why we're going to have a sovereign debt crisis, is because you can't even try and shave off a few billion out of this program by making very reasonable restrictions about, insuring high dollar second homes.
Well, and that's an interesting, I like what you said earlier about the disconnect between the consequences of and you used several times the word moral hazard, which is, that's exactly what the definition of moral hazard is a disconnect between the consequences of your actions and the benefits of them. So, when somebody can that was the whole. Okay, 2008, the banking system collapses, and the idea was, okay, you have to kind of let these companies go under because otherwise it's a moral hazard. They gambled more than they should have. They should get wiped out. That's what should happen. Yada yada. And then it turns out, well, if we do that, they're too big to fail, so we kind of have to bail them out, and then that's moral hazard because, okay, now you're bailing them out, and what are you teaching them? The lesson that, hey, you can get away with doing things you shouldn't be doing because in the end we have to bail you out. So I do think at some point we really do need to have a discussion, because you and I have talked about the sovereign debt crisis, and the U.S. debt is, well, first of all, we need to get a modern monetary policy, somebody who believes in modern monetary policy, because it's been a long time since we've had a pure comedy show, and there's a lot to be done with modern monetary policy. Unless somebody, I've spoken to professors of modern monetary policy, it's just like, sir, you don't seem to be able to answer some very basic questions about inflation. Just saying. But Yeah, we need to get. I don't know. I know. Well, Swede's a good economist. We're gonna get. We got to get an economist. So we got to do that show. We've got to. We're trying to get a guy who wrote a book on Soviet culture and how it has maintained through the years. I want to do that show. You and I should just sit down and brainstorm guests because we haven't booked any new guests, especially and the Russian culture one I think is still very important because of the propaganda that we see out of Russia, and we still really are kind of fighting a Cold War against Russia. It's an interesting position to be in. So, but I definitely also want to. Does the idea of RFK, do you think RFK is going to be able to pull off any of his we're gonna remove polio vaccine requirements, MMR requirements, all that other stuff? Do you think he's going to do that successfully?
I hope not. I fear so, but I kind of doubt it. RFK is a difficult one for me because there's some things where I am cheering him on. It's like you go get him. You know, things with some of the FDA stuff that he's going after. And I'm like, yay, do that. And then there's stuff like where I guess his brainworm crops up and says, "Oh, hold my beer. We're gonna do this." And I'm like, okay, these are really terrible ideas. It's like, yeah, polio. You really don't want polio coming back. I mean, I think we did a pretty damn good job of getting rid of polio. So yeah, let's not let that one come back. Again, it's like, okay, well, you have to do a risk reward benefit. It's like, how many people you claim that these, or I don't know if he specifically claims. I believe that he lumps the polio vaccine in with this. That many of these vaccines are causing health issues further in life, and especially things with like causing autism. Now, the correlation between those two isn't super great, and and to my knowledge, have never been able to prove any kind of causation. But we still look at this and go, well, wait a minute. Is the off chance that you may have some health issues in the future because of this vaccine, is that worse than getting polio?
Yeah, even if you grant the worst, Penn and Teller did a thing on this in the show Bullshit. One of the things they did was they set up a whole bunch of bowling pins, 100 bowling pins on one side, another 100 bowling pins on another side. And then they had a whole bunch of just like Nerf balls, and they said, okay, the worst, that the craziest nut job that has no evidence, that's making stuff up about these vaccines. They say that it'll, 1 in 100 kids will die. So there's no study that's ever confirmed this, that said this is completely indefensible, but let's say that. So they pull out one pin, and then they put up a glass shield in front of those pins. So they say, this pin dies, boom, he's gone. But this is the vaccinated group, so we'll pull up. Then they just start throwing balls at everything, and the vaccination shield is blocking all of them. And you still got the other 99 pins. Meanwhile, they're like, okay, here's polio, and they start throwing all these pins, knocking over, and they've killed like half the other pins. And like, that's it. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like, even if you grant every argument that every anti-vaxxer has ever used. You can't grant any of them. But even if you did, they lose. So I thought that was particularly.
That's like the definition of why are we arguing about this? Because when I can use your absolute best, quote unquote, I hate to call it evidence, but your best,
your worst case scenario
about everything. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Your worst case scenario about this is still, and I'm not granting any of it, but for this argument, we will. Let's grant everything you say that bad's going to happen. And then let's compare to polio.
Yeah.
And let's see which one you would prefer to live in. And it's like, I think we have really forgotten the devastating effects of polio because we got rid of it. It's It's like you don't have to worry about polio in the United States at all.
Yep. And it was devastating for my father. Talks about what it was like, and they were on the tail end of it, but he's still like the quarterback on their football team got it and was paralyzed from the waist down, and it's just like, oh, okay. And it was okay, because so many people had it, and so many people had it that you could have a president that was elected in a wheelchair. I mean, nowadays, if and we're getting much better about that kind of thing, but the idea of electing a president who had any kind of disability, it's like, but back then it was like, oh, it's polio. He's in a wheelchair because of polio. It's like, well, everybody knew somebody who was. It wasn't, it was a huge thing. I do want to, and I forget the numbers. I wanted to get the numbers, and I haven't looked at them in a while, so I don't have them off the top of my head. But yeah, people forget just how many, especially children, suffered under polio, and everybody knew somebody who had it. It was, and who suffered terribly from it. So there was a question: can he do something? I've been trying to figure out what RFK would or would not have the power to do as the head of the FDA. What he is seeking to do right now is to deauthorize the polio vaccine so that the FDA would not approve it. And what that means is, of course, it still exists, but if it's not approved for use by the FDA, any doctor who were to administer it could lose his license. It's not approved for use in the United States by the FDA. So he's trying to get it deauthorized by the FDA. This is what they tried to do with the, I think it was the morning after pill. And his lawyers have submitted a request that the polio vaccine be decertified. Now, that request is going to take about 3 or 4 months to be properly surveyed, answered, and returned. However, requests to the FDA can be fast-tracked and approved or denied by fiat by the head of the FDA. So he has put in the request so that if he gets the FDA, if he gets the head of the FDA, which is, again, he'd have to get, it looks like they're not going to let him be a recess appointment, and my hope is there's enough sanity in the Senate that he's not going to get approved. But if he becomes the head of the FDA, he can say, oh, by the way, there is a request to decertify the polio vaccine for use in the United States, and I hereby approve that request. And then it would instantly be decertified.
RFK getting nominated to the head of the FDA is like handing a child a Halloween sack, a fairly large one, full of the best candies in the world, and also every venomous snake that exists in the United States. And reaching in to partake of your favorite candies, like the Nirvana candies, just something that you would almost literally kill for. And then you have no idea which one of these venomous snakes is going to bite you either. I mean, if it's a coral snake, you're probably going to die. If it's a rattlesnake, you're probably in for a lot of discomfort, but you will most likely survive. Same with cottonmouth. Same with, I just drew a blank on the other one, water moccasin. So it's like you've got, and let's go ahead and just for kicks and funs, we'll make it a large like horse trough of water trough or something, and we'll fill it with all of this cool stuff that you'd absolutely ever want, and then we'll dump all of the North American venomous snakes, and we'll drop a few from Australia in there, like maybe the inland taipan. We'll just put one of those in there though. There's at least 10 rattlesnakes in there, and only one inland taipan. But that one inland taipan, if it gets you, that's it. You're dead. So that's my best analogy for FDR or for RFK.
I've got another one. It's a little crazy. Nobody would ever do something this stupid, but it's like this bad. It's like taking somebody who was presumably, and it looks like the evidence is pretty strong, engaged in, say, sex trafficking, violating all sorts of ethical rules, bribery, using their position to Sikh gifts, having sex with minors, all of these other things. Somebody like that. Let's say Matt Gaetz, for example, and say making him Attorney General. I mean, that would be just as, oh yeah, he was nominated to Attorney General, wasn't he? Trump knows how to fucking pick him. Matt Gaetz. And I'm sorry, I'm going to call it like it is and say that we all knew Matt Gaetz from the beginning because there was enough. I hate rumor and innuendo. I've seen a lot of good people get hurt by it. We've all been hurt by it. I've been hurt by it. Everybody knows what slander is like. But having said that, when 3 or 4 senators say, oh yeah, he was showing me pictures of underage girls and saying, yeah, I banged her, and he was doing that on the floor of the House, and there's camera footage of it, and there's people taking photos of him doing that, and then they have the flight records of him, and they know who, when they've gotten all these interviews. And after all that, you say, yeah, let's put him in the highest law enforcement position in the country. That's a good idea. Give me a dear friggin' yeah.
And Gates is one where it's like, okay, people have had suspicions for a long time about him. The difficult thing about RFK, one is the brainworm issue, or like you never know when his worm's going to. Well, I should rephrase: the worm is dead; it's not there anymore. But it wiggled around in his brain quite a lot and probably scrambled his eggs a bit. Apparently, it seems that way.
Well, and they've admitted it did feast a bit. It ate some.
Yeah. It scrambled his brains a bit.
Yeah.
So the difficult. I mean, Gates, we can just be like, oh, come out straight up. Oh yeah, that's pretty shitty and bad, and there's like no upside to that one. The problem with RFK is that he has some really great ideas about generalized health in the United States that would be, in my opinion, really great to be implemented through the FDA, to be able to have him there and go through all of these things. Again, it's like the damn sack full of great candy and some of the venomous snakes of the country. It's like you stick your hand in and you don't know what you're going to get. You could get, a couple of fangs on the side and, oh my God, I might die. Or you might come out with the most tasty Reese's peanut butter cup you have ever had. One that grants eternal youth and immunity from all disease.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's just, especially when I'm talking about health, and then it's like, yeah, we're putting a bag full of candy here. Not particularly healthy, but that's what makes this one so difficult, and that's why it's so painful. Because I'm like, here we go with hands again. On the one hand, he's got really great ideas about some things that probably really should be implemented. Some really egregious oversteps by the FDA. Some really, in my opinion, egregious accepting of propaganda and money bribes in the form of lobbying to get certain things officially endorsed. But then you also have polio, really, dude?
No, it's not just, it's MMR, polio. It's everything. No, he's an and he's, what's
Smallpox,
interesting.
Measles, rubella. Let's bring all of that stuff. Mumps, let's bring all of that stuff. Well, I guess that's part of the measles, mumps, and rubella. That's MMR. So it's just. Oh my God!
Let me interrupt.
Vaccinations are really important.
Let me interrupt real quick. So it is 8 p.m. We're going to continue going, but we are going to wrap it up. And there is Purple Rhymes with Orange has like the Christmas Circle like shows going from one show to another to another. So I don't know which the next show is, but I wanted to make sure that we didn't step on their time. We're going to wrap this up, but if you want to go on to the next one, I'd really like to thank Purple Rhymes with Orange for including us at the last minute. I'd also like to remind everyone to please like and subscribe. We are so short of 1,000. We had been over 1,000, and we got monetized. We've been monetized for 6 to 8 months, and then we were down for a little while, and we just the numbers dropped off. We're now demonetized. So what can you do? So thank you for that. So I want to get that cleared out, and then the other thing about him is RFK has lied a lot. He has said that he's not an anti-vaxxer. Maybe he believes he's not an anti-vaxxer, but when you see him on Joe Rogan, he's an anti-vaxxer. When you see him on a liberal show, he's like, "Oh, I'm just asking questions." But he is 100% anti-vaxxer, and he's like, "Well, the evidence shows." I was like, "Dude, you clearly don't know how to read evidence, because that is absolutely not what the evidence shows, period, end of discussion." The book's been closed on that for a very, very long time, until one asshole decided to make up a whole bunch of data, and the vaccine has been, the whole concept of vaccines has been suffering. I've forgotten the guy's name. Somebody in the live chat will probably remember it, when he invented a study that showed a correlation between autism and vaccines, and it was fake. It was fraud. The whole thing was, and it's the only one that's ever showed it. And it is known to be a fraud. He had to withdraw it and admitted that it was a fraud. But, we remember most what we hear first. And when you hear that study came out, you say, "Oh, wow." And then when you hear it was a fraud, people forget that bit. Anyways, so what were you saying? And then let's wrap it up.
Yeah, so it's things like that get even more agonizing, because you do want some of the positive change that this person could bring, and a lot of good that this person could do. But is it worth the potential harm that he could do as well? And it's like, well, having a resurgence of polio come back in the United States, now, granted, that's probably a little bit of a lower chance of it happening, because, well, we don't have large cases of polio around right now, so at least there's that going for us. But I'm like,
it would take a while, but
on one hand, better policy just around generalized health and the things that the FDA is supporting versus not supporting. Polio, on the other hand, I'm going to go with anything that isn't polio.
I would like to remind everybody that when times get tough and you don't know where to turn to for a news organization or people who will take a stand in time, has now taken a very strong stance against polio. We don't like polio. We are against polio. And all of us here believe that nobody should have to suffer polio. So, thank you. Just taking a break. The GOAT is still alive. We're going to keep an eye on the GOAT. We have downtime with Commander McMillan. He has confirmed our regular downtime schedule tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Once again, thank you to Purple Rhymes with Orange, who 2 years ago we did this, so it's our second time. We really appreciate doing it. We think it's a great idea. And to those of you who have joined us, and again, it's... So, sometimes when Christmas comes around, you remember the things you don't have. And that's why at the very beginning, I think it's worth making the effort to remember the things you do, and to do that for other people. Maybe that's if you don't know what to give someone for Christmas, think about giving them the gift of remembering what Mowdy would say, how bad it ain't. And what you can do to make other people's lives a little better, because it does have a tendency to come around. Any last words before we go?
Just say no to polio.
Exactly. He's got it. We're gonna do a thing, and come join us on the Discord. We're gonna figure out what we're gonna do for the what's his name right there. Hopefully he's got a name other than GOAT, and hopefully he'll be here tomorrow. Come find out tomorrow for downtime, and we will see you all shortly. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful holiday. Good night.